The City Council Committee on Government Services co-post with the Committee of the Whole meet. TV. We'll meet in person on Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing and adopting Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Clause 22I and 22J relative to the HERO Act. This meeting will be held in City Council Chambers, 93 Washington Street, Salem, Mass., second floor. Listed below is the backup link. Join the webinar. Listed below, password 124836 or telephone 877-853-5257. Webinar ID 820-6612-5235. So tonight we are here again to talk about the HERO Act. Joining us from the committee, we have all members. We also have Councilor Morcillo and Councilor Jerslow. And joining us from the city, we have our veterans agent, Kim Emmerling, Director of Finance, Anna Friedman, and our city assessor, Stephen Cortez. So to begin this, I think we need a little clarity from Mr. Emmerling and Mr. Cortez. So I'll let you all kind of do your thing. Thanks for coming tonight, guys.
All right, go first. All right, thank you. Good evening. Kim Emmerling, Director of Veteran Services. And as you all know, under the HERO Act that was recently passed by the state of Massachusetts, there's a couple of revisions in there to essentially double the current veteran abatements, tax abatements, and as well as have them increase with the normal cost of living adjustment done every January. So that's what I put forth to the the Veterans Council put forth to the City Council last meeting, I believe, and that's what generated this meeting here. So I think we're just gonna, all the abatements are pretty self-explanatory. I think he's got it right there in front of you, exactly which ones they are. It's just for Purple Heart recipients, those that are 100% service-connected disabled or not 100%, but between 10 and 90. And then Gold Star parents and surviving spouses is essentially the four main categories of the abatements for veterans. So that being said, it's just a matter of the numbers that come up. So.
Awesome, Mr. Cortez. Thank you.
So this is, and I refuse to get glasses.
I was prepared. I always am impressed how prepared you are to make this all work.
All right. So good evening, councilors. Tonight I'm here to go over and answer your questions on the proposed disabled veterans exemption clauses in the HERO Act. But I also want to explain the mechanics of exemptions and bring up some upcoming changes that you should be aware of. First, a brief overview of exemptions. A personal exemption reduces the amount of property tax owed based on personal circumstance as of July 1st. These exemptions may be either locally adopted or stem from a state clause. They are applied to the third and fourth quarter tax bills, and homeowners are responsible for filing an annual application between September and April 1st. It is important to note that filing an application does not delay tax payments or stop tax collection, and exemptions do not impact property valuation. The City of Salem offers several exemptions for qualifying individuals, including those who are blind, widowed, elderly, and low income or disabled veterans. We'll focus more on the disabled veteran clause in a moment. Under Mass General Law, only one exemption can be granted per fiscal year, except when it comes to the Community Preservation Act CPA exemption. When exemptions are granted, the lost tax revenue is charged to our overlay account, which is part of the city's annual budget. This account covers not only lost revenues from exemptions, but also from abatements of both real and personal property taxes, as well as the municipal share of federal Social Security and Medicare tax on abatements for seniors in our work-off program. The state provides reimbursements based on a fixed amount per state clause for the number of exemptions granted, but it does not reimburse for local options. We typically receive about 33% of the lost revenue from veterans exemptions based on a 5-year average. Although this funding is returned under local aid the following year, We must budget for the full amount in the overlay account at the outset. In total, the city receives about 16% reimbursement per year when accounting for all exemptions and abatements using a 5-year average. And you can please refer to the state reimbursement handout. The key takeaway here is that the higher the overlay account must be to cover these necessary exemptions for individuals struggling to pay their taxes, the higher the tax rate could be for everyone. Now to the HERO Act, which takes effect the following fiscal year after it is adopted under Chapter 178 of the Acts of 2024. This act introduces 2 optional exemption clauses for disabled veterans, Clause 22J and Clause 22I. Regarding Clause 22J, which applies to municipalities that do not double their exemptions, this does not apply to Salem, as we already doubled the exemptions under Clause 59, Section 5C.5. As stated in the law, quote, the additional exemption contained within this clause shall not be implemented in any year in which the city or town has also accepted Section 5C.5. Therefore, Clause 22J is not relevant for us and cannot be adopted. That leaves Clause 22I, which would increase the disabled veteran exemption annually based on the cost of living adjustment, or COLA, set by the Department of Revenue in line with the Consumer Price Index. Over the past 3 years, COLA increases have ranged from 7% for FY23 to 6.5% for FY24 and 3.4% for FY25. And you can please refer to the FY25 personal exemption handout for our current exemption amounts. Since this is a local option, the city would not receive additional state reimbursement for the increased amounts of the veteran exemption. For context, in FY24, we provided 149 veteran exemptions, totaling $201,824.54, which we did not collect from those taxpayers. The following year, we received $59,250 back from the state, resulting in about 29% reimbursement only for the veterans clauses. Overall, for all exemptions in FY24, not including abatements, we gave out $355,523.27 in exemptions and received $87,750 in reimbursement, or about 25%. There's a potential impact for eligible veterans with the proposed Clause 22I. With the FY24 average single-family tax bill at $6,742.35 and the current veterans exemptions ranging from $400 to $3,000, eligible individuals could see tax reductions between 6% and 45%. If we estimate a 5% increase in the veterans exemption, this range would adjust to $420 to $3,150 in the first year, leading to potential reductions of 7% to 47%. Over the next 3 years, those qualifying for maximum exemptions might have up to half of their taxes exempted. Granted, predicting the tax rate factor remains difficult as the city budget changes and the real estate market fluctuates. Next, I'd like to briefly address some related exemptions and program changes that, while not directly tied to the veterans exemptions, contribute to the broader financial picture. These exemptions collectively impact the city's budget and tax rates, so it's important to consider their combined effects. We currently accept the STEP, or Senior Tax Exemption Program, another locally adopted exemption, which utilizes the state's circuit breaker tax credit as a basis for our local exemption, which is set at half of that amount. In FY24, the maximum benefit available to an applicant was $600. For FY25, the governor's increase in the tax credit will boost the local exemption up to $1,295. With further adjustments, the deduction next year will rise to $1,365. With these increases, more individuals are likely to transition from the state's reimbursable exemptions to the STEP exemption as it becomes more increasingly advantageous. Just for comparison, please refer to our personal exemption FY25 sheet under the income and asset tested exemptions 17D and 41C, which have a maximum deduction of $774 and $1,000 respectively. Currently, for FY25, we already have 11 more exemptions for the STEP than we did last year. As a result for these changes, we will need to increase the overlay account regardless. I also anticipate that our overall reimbursement rate of 16% will decrease as more individuals take advantage of the STEP program, which is more financially beneficial than the state clauses, as well as those as the proposed changes under Clause 22I. Additionally, the senior work-off abatement law has been amended. If locally adopted, this would raise the work-off abatement next year from $1,500 up to $2,000 in accordance with the recently approved Act to Improve the Commonwealth's Competitiveness, Affordability, and Equity under Mass General Law, Chapter 50. This is another local option that, like others, is not reimbursable. While we budgeted conservatively and currently have enough in the overlay account to cover the pending tax liabilities at the appellate tax board, these upcoming changes will begin to impact us in the next 3 or 4 years or so. I genuinely believe in doing everything we can to support those in need. Helping people through challenging times is essential to building a strong, compassionate community. At the same time, it's important to consider how these decisions impact everyone, as the cost of providing support is often reflected in the tax rate. Furthermore, our city's advancing developments have made Salem a highly desirable place to live, resulting in a rising property sales market, which brings both opportunities and challenges. This growth benefits the community, but also requires thoughtful planning to ensure fairness for all residents, both new and established. The assessor's role is not to advocate for any political position, but to present the facts clearly, empowering everyone to make informed decisions. Equally important, I'm here to provide you with the necessary information and context to help address your constituents' questions regarding tax bills. It's about finding a fair balance, offering help to those who need it, while being mindful of the impact of those who contribute. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this information, and I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, please.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Cortez, for the clarification. I guess my first question is, and I don't know how clear of an answer you can give us because of the cost of the COLA. What kind of impact would we be looking at if we do adopt this when it comes to the overlay account, and who would actually adopt something like this within our veterans in our city of Salem? Like what kind of impact are we looking at as far as in a dollar amount? Okay, so me and Anna did a 5-year average for FY25, and we looked at what that would be cumulatively over the next 5 years for those exemptions under the veterans that are not full exemptions, because the full exemptions would not qualify. And that would be a cumulative amount to set aside of $144,381.89. Excellent. Thank you. We have any questions from the council? I'm sorry, Councilor Presnowski.
Thank you, Chair Perrella. This is probably geared more towards our veterans agent, Kim Emmerling. Kim, how many veterans in this city are eligible to apply for this act?
$149 with some type of exemption?
Specifically for the HERO Act. I know that a lot of them already get exemptions for other reasons, but how many of them are eligible for applying for the HERO Act?
So it really doesn't change the eligibility. They're already getting the abatement. So the HERO Act would just simply double it, which is what we're trying to figure out. But I mean, as they come in and they're eligible for the abatement, they would just start anew. But we're looking at roughly 150, right?
Hey, Stephen, can you kind of up to the
138? He just added them up.
So 149 exemptions were given for all disabled veterans, but that included some of the ones that were totally exempted, which don't qualify for this one because they're totally exempted. So 138 are ones that will be affected by this COLA change.
That COLA change would result in approximately $144,300
over 5 years.
Over 5 years.
Correct.
Not
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we clarify what we're talking about here. Stephen, we're not talking about the doubling, right? Because we don't qualify for that as a city.
That is correct.
So all we're talking about is the COLA part of the HERO Act, which would provide a cost of living increase for any of those veterans who qualify for any of these exemptions.
Correct.
It would then provide a cost of living increase each year, whatever the state sets it at.
That is correct.
But we don't get reimbursed for any of that.
Correct.
Have any communities signed on to this yet?
Not that I know of. FY26 would be the first year that any of the communities would come on board for this.
So even if we vote on this right now, it wouldn't come into effect until FY26?
Correct.
Okay. And okay. And then you said that right now there's 138 who get these types of exemptions.
Would be affected by the
Would be
code change.
affected.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And these exemptions aren't income based, right?
No, they're not.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anna, if you may, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to add one thing in terms of timing, and Stephen, please correct me if I'm wrong on this. But I believe if it's the decision to implement this, it just has to be implemented before the July 1st of the fiscal year in which it starts, and FY26 would be the first year. So the council would have until later this spring to decide if there are additional questions. Just as a note, it would just need to be accepted if there was a desire to it to be put into effect in FY26 before 7/1.
Councilor Marcillo.
Just to follow up, are any of our exemptions, any of them have an automatic COLA?
I don't know.
The widow, minor, and elderly?
Indeed. Correct.
And okay, so
That one has been changing since that law went into effect.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other? Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela. I had a question, and I appreciate the other councilors some questions for clarity and from my own interpretation here. So this is to add COLA to the current exemptions, I think is what you had clarified for Councilor Marcillo.
Yes, the COLA would apply only to the disabled veterans that are not totally exempt. So that would be 22, 22A, 22B, 22C, and 22E.
Yeah, it's for that. So it adds a COLA to that. Okay, so I guess my next question is for Anna Friedman, if you feel or if you have any information, if our overlay account can accommodate this. Because, for the lost revenue that this would cause, especially since we're never exactly sure, if I'm correct, what COLA will be from year to year, if that's correct. So we don't have an exact amount. And yeah, just your thoughts on, us being able to accommodate the lost revenue in that account.
So I would say it's not necessarily it's not necessarily lost revenue in the sense that what happens is that the levy, say the tax levy was going to be $20 million on all taxpayers, but if we need to increase the overlay by $40,000 to accommodate the additional amounts for the exemptions, then the levy would increase by that $40,000. Other members of the community would then pay more in taxes to offset the amounts that would be abated for those getting the exemptions, and so it's not lost revenue to the budget. It's just an increase in taxes to the tax base, but spread out across the community. It's not what I would say. It's not a significant increase. I guess speaking kind of to try to put a parameter on it, but it would be likely a couple dollars, over time, over 10 years, maybe like $10 or something like that over 10 years. We haven't run those to try to figure out like an average tax rate because the tax rate changes every year, but it just means that those tax dollars will still be raised to support the budget, but we would have to raise more in taxes than we otherwise would to pay for the same budget because we have to set aside some that would be exempted.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yes, please.
Um, not only is it difficult for the reasons why Anna said, but also because the changing of the real estate market. So that changes, and it's hard to predict what it would be in 10 years or so, 5 years, including the city's budget as well. So those two factors would affect it, and that's hard to track.
Yes, thank you. I would think it's nearly impossible, but it is helpful to hear the configuration that it's more in line with a minimal increase for taxpayers as opposed to, something really substantial, even if it does fluctuate. It sounds like it's not something that would be an increase for an individual person that's like really significant.
For this 22I alone, we don't think that it would be significant, but in the broader picture with the step change and the possible work-off program change, in total, aside from this from this HERO Act, it could be more than what the HERO Act does alone.
Okay, so yes, but the increases with the STEP programs, and those are happening regardless.
STEP is happening regardless.
Okay.
The workout program has to be voted on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephen. All right, any other questions from the councilor? So I guess what we have here is we're really just looking at 22I, which would impact this and what we're going to be voting on tonight. So I guess we could do a couple of things here. If no one has any other questions, we can either, since we do have some time, leave this in committee, have maybe a little more of a thoughtful conversation in the beginning of the year about this, or it's the will of the body of what we want to do. But overall, I have to say, after seeing what the abatement would be, it seems like it's doable and that we can prepare for it. And I think it is, if it's a benefit for our veterans, I think it's a positive. So with that, Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela. I agree too. I think it sounds like a positive for disabled veterans without a significant impact. But since we just got a lot of, and I also want to thank our presenters tonight. This was a lot of great information. And really helpful, because I was wondering about all this. Since we just received this information tonight and our questions answered, and as we kind of go over it, we can certainly have more questions. And since there is not a rush, yep.
1 second. So I think what we could do is we could amend this and remove 22J.
Yeah, I think that's the first step. So I would like to motion to remove from the order the option for 22J, and only keep, and also for the city solicitor, it should include the language of section 5 on here from the email we all received, that it's section 5, 22I. Please include section 5 in the final order. So just to note section 5, and that it would be 22I, and eliminate the 22J option.
All right. So
I'd like to
Merkel makes a motion to remove 22J and add section 5. So, before we do, what was the section? Sorry, Councilor Merkel.
Yes, and remove 22J as an option. Yes, and we're adding section 5.
So add section 5.
Yes, into the language. Yes.
Okay. All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Prasnewski. So I guess we'll vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Let the record show I see 4 hands plus my own. So that matter carries. And Councilor Merkel.
I'd like to make a motion to keep this in committee.
Councilor motion to made for this arraignment committee.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Prasnewski. All those in favor? Let the record show I see 4 hands plus my own. That matter carries. And Councilor Merkel.
Motion to adjourn?
Councilor Marshall, motion to adjourn. Good second by Councilor Presnowski. All those in favor? Motion is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everyone, for showing up tonight.